I first became interested in meditation before Buddhism, as is so often the case with people from Western countries, and that led me to investigate Buddhism. Meditation, when we first become interested, if it is from living in a Buddhist country and a background of the Buddhist religion, you would already have some idea of the foundations behind the teachings of the Buddha and the purpose of meditation being the development of the mind, the development of wholesome mind states and the reduction of unwholesome mind states. When we first become interested in the West, not being from a Buddhist background, our understanding is more towards the idea of developing relaxation, calmness, serenity, stress relief, peace, and happiness. I hesitate before I say happiness because often it is approached more clinically, more as a medicine, which it is, for calmness, and like many medicines, a bitter pill to swallow. So one may struggle to take a little medicine for a cure. But although it can be a little difficult at first, meditation, it can and should also be always enjoyable. If it is not enjoyable, you will not stick at it. Now, I'm not saying there are instant results of gratification. It isn't like turning on a movie or opening a good book and immediately being absorbed, all of your senses occupied with 1 hour or 1 hour and 20 minutes of pure entertainment. No. Eventually, it can become like that. But at first, we need instruction. And this instruction, in the time of the Buddha and many millennia preceding the Buddha even, there was meditation in Eastern countries which was taught by gurus and teachers from their experience directly to their disciples, the people wishing to learn how to practice meditation. And I suppose to some extent throughout history, as the transmission of information, knowledge and learning changed towards printing presses and books, it may have become a little more intellectual and something that became a subject for reading up on. But one will not find the best. You can find the best teachings on meditation in the suttas, the words of the Buddha. But when you read the suttas, the words of the Buddha, and you listen to them, you will know you're hearing the teacher speaking. It isn't like a step-by-step textbook. Even though with the numbered lists and the step-by-step approach of teaching, it reads, it sounds as if it is coming from the teacher himself, which is quite unique and something unusual to the suttas. And as perhaps I would imagine is akin to many holy scriptures from whatever religion you may come from. But to go to the library and get a book of instruction how to meditate is never going to be a successful approach. So we do some research, and these days it's nice and easy. We go on the internet. When I first became interested in Buddhism, I found a podcast to listen to, and from there, having listened to a few, as one does by comparison, found a teacher whom I liked, or at least I liked what I heard. The sound of him and how he was teaching and what he was teaching resonated with my own ideas, preferences, and perhaps personality. So you may hear of a very good teacher here and a very good teacher there, but you need to find a teacher that is very good for you. It is very individual, and there are so many, and these days we're so blessed with the availability on YouTube and perhaps other formats of so many very experienced meditation teachers from around the world, that you are able to listen to a few, and when you find one that you're comfortable with listening to, you should stick to not only that method of practice, but that particular teacher for as long as that is available to you, for as long as you can, and for as long as it holds your interest. Because if you keep chopping and changing, I mean, firstly with the type, the method of practice, if you keep chopping and changing, then it is like digging a hole, starting, and then stopping, and then going elsewhere, and starting to dig another hole, and then stopping, going elsewhere, and start. You will never dig down to what you're digging to. Once started, you need to continue. So it's worth taking some time to find the right method of learning and teacher, podcasts, YouTube videos, guided meditations, just explanations on meditation. There's all kinds of different options. But what is best and most appropriate for you? Because that isn't necessarily what's best and most appropriate for somebody else who may say, you should listen to this teacher, they're the best. Because that's not necessarily going to be so good for you. And also, find one or find a teacher that is speaking your language, literally. So somebody who uses your language naturally. They don't necessarily have to come from your country, but that helps if it's their mother tongue, their birth language, because it just takes away one more obstacle of understanding. And in saying that, there are some people whose teachings are amazing in English, and it is not their mother tongue, but it has become so. They speak English very naturally. I'm only using English as the only example I can, because it's the only language I speak. So similarly, in other languages, I'm sure it's the same experience. But there is so much availability, one should take advantage of that. Now, my first teacher, he used to have a saying, and this saying has stuck with me to this day. Now, he spoke my mother language, but he was American, so I don't think that makes much difference. But I liked the sound of him, I listened and learnt about the practice of meditation from scratch. And I think it was the title of his, it was a podcast, and I think it was even the title of the podcast, which was I Should Be Meditating. And this was, along with another, was one of his mantras. It became a mantra, something he repeated quite often. I should be meditating. And I was encouraged. I don't remember rightly whether he directly said you should keep saying this to yourself, but it sunk in so that I did keep saying this to myself. Because we should be meditating all of the time, all day long, every day. Yes, sitting in the lotus position on the floor is formal meditation. And this is like the greenhouse or the nursery for bringing on seedlings. We plant the seed, we add nutrition, fertilizer, water, sunlight, and we wait. And for quite some time nothing happens. But we can be confident because the conditions are correct, the temperature, the greenhouse nursery environment, the soil, the nutritional value of the soil with fertilizer, the regular addition of water. We're confident the seedling will eventually sprout, grow, become established, and we will have a plant from experience. And this same experience shows us that by sitting in formal meditation, it takes a little while, but we establish the ability to bring our minds into we establish the ability to allow our minds to settle, to allow our bodies to settle. So firstly, to allow our bodies to settle, and then allow our minds to settle, enabling us then to bring our awareness, our attention into focus and notice what is going on in terms of our physical feelings and our mental emotions, but then with the aim and ultimately of bringing that attention into a smaller and smaller area of focus onto one meditation object. And usually I use this initially I would have used this meditation object of the breath. This is how the Buddha taught us to meditate in the first instance, with many other alternative meditation objects. But the one that is most readily and easily available and always with us is the breath. So, without trying too hard, once we have established through sitting this ability to relax and bring our attention to the meditation object, then eventually, with this practice, we can, as the Buddha taught, meditate in all four postures, while sitting, standing, walking, and lying down. Now, if you're going about your everyday business, as long as it is not too mentally taxing, often our duties are quite routine, repetitive, and we carry on about them almost automatically, whilst thinking of all sorts of things. How often have you driven somewhere only to think, I don't even remember going past this place or through that place. My mind was elsewhere, because your mind was elsewhere. You can be doing whatever it is you do at work. You've done it so often, you're not really thinking about it, you're thinking about something else. So we do have the ability to switch off from some routine activities, but also to switch back on to those when necessary or when alerted to do so. And this is the very observational practice we want to employ all day and every day through mindfulness. Now, towards the end of this Noble Eightfold Path of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, comes the last three: right effort. And effort is more directional than the strength behind it. So the effort required in meditation is to just keep gently guiding yourself back on track, back onto that Noble Eightfold Path as you drift. Before I knew about the Noble Eightfold Path, I didn't have that knowledge. I could only just try and force myself to stay on focus. If I'd known about the Noble Eightfold Path, I would have developed the right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood in everyday life, which is just basically sila, or moral virtue, which in itself, in a practical way, a very practical way, keeps you on that centre. It keeps nudging you in to the centre of the path. By that I mean, for example, if you have broken the precepts, you have, say, stolen something, quite trivial, but enough to be of concern if you were to have got caught. However you've got away with it, it is in the back of your mind. It is one additional hindrance and obstacle to calming the mind. If you've harmed someone through speech even, had an argument, and you've said something you didn't really want to, shouldn't really have said, it will be in the back of your mind, another hindrance to meditation. However, if you've kept the 5 precepts, if you've adhered to the sila, the moral virtue aspect of that Noble Eightfold Path, you will not have those hindrances. You will still have the 5 ordinary hindrances, and they are enough. So by keeping sila, we are able to start from a higher level already. So this is where people from a Buddhist background, whether they're keeping the precepts or not, by the very understanding and knowing of how that works and that they should be and can do, is a good foundational basis to them developing a higher level of meditation when they sit about practicing meditation formally. Set about practicing meditation formally. With us, we find out about this through the practice. If we haven't had that background of understanding, we already have a moral understanding. We already try to be kind, try to be nice, try not to harm ourselves or others. This is just normal. So the difference is we're not connecting that with meditation. It is only when you read the teachings of the Buddha that you draw that connection. But it is a very important connection when you want to take meditation away from just sitting here. Because of course, if you want to just zone out and just get away from it all, there are practices of meditation whereby you can do more or less anything you want in life. And then say, for now, the next half hour, I'm meditating. I'll be doing this breathing exercise, that breathing exercise, and it will feel good, and I won't be interrupted. I'll make sure it's quiet, nobody can disturb me. This is a little artificial. It is not really meditation. Meditation becomes part of you, a practice which becomes part of your everyday life. So the nursery, the greenhouse, where we're developing this practice, growing this seed into a plant, is where we begin. But having established these firm foundations of sila and this determination and a little bit of effort to keep us on track, we can practice meditation regularly and begin to develop our minds wholesomely and reduce our unwholesome mind states. Now this is already helping the mind to settle. And when the mind settles, the body settles also. Now at the beginning I said we first sit down to meditate, we settle the mind and we settle the body. And I changed that, I said, no, we settle the body and we settle the mind. Well, it actually goes hand in hand. In fact, when you can develop the ability to settle the mind first, then the body will settle. I say settle rather than relax, because we cannot force ourselves to relax. We cannot make ourselves be happy. We can only bring about the causes and conditions to being happy. The causes and conditions to being happy are being content, and this, as a result of contentment, produces the symptom of happiness. As a result of discontentment, the result is the symptom of sadness. Now, if we allow, this isn't doing, we allow our bodies to settle, our bodies will, as a symptom, relax. If we allow our minds to settle, our minds, as a symptom of that settling, will relax. This is developing calmness, serenity, physically and mentally. This is meditation. So we start by listening. Excuse me. Listening to the voice of another. It is very important. This is better than reading. If we're listening, if we're reading, we are often listening to our own inner voice. If we're listening to the voice of another, and someone we like, then we're a little distanced from our own opinion and judgment, and therefore more receptive to understanding. It isn't learning, it is understanding. There's a difference. You can learn a times table, an alphabet. You can learn by rote, by repetition. And you can repeat the entire chemical periodic table, if you so liked. But can you make a cake? Not necessarily. You might understand all of the ingredients down to the various chemicals involved, but you don't know how to put them together with love and care to produce something tasty. This is the difference. So we listen to the voice of another and something sticks. My other voice, what stuck was I should be meditating. This was my first teacher. It became my mantra, and throughout my days, walking, working, doing what I had to do, this would come up. I should be meditating. What does that mean? And then when I was meditating, unable to really relax, things weren't settling, I would again repeat, I should be meditating, I should be meditating. And eventually it became understood to me that what this mantra was saying was that everything is an opportunity to meditate. Everything we do in our lives is only as a result of what we're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching. And using that practice, that observational ability we develop when we're sitting down to see through what we consider as distraction, as we consider as disturbance, as we consider as noise, busyness, crowdedness, see through all of that to find spaciousness and peace that is there amongst it all, not only when you're sitting down at a meditation center or at home on your floor with a incense stick burning. It's only natural to be able to develop your meditation more easily in that controlled environment like the seedling. And it is very important to spend time each and every day for doing this. But as soon as we get up, we have this tendency to think, right, I've done my meditation for the day and it's over. No, this is where it begins. We've only just warmed up. Then, when we're driving, when we're walking, we can use the techniques we've learned, the observation of those 5 hindrances, just to remind you, of sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor or tiredness, restlessness and worry, which is thinking about the past and the future, or doubt. We can understand those 5 hindrances in meditation and see also how they arise in our daily lives to distract us. I'm just about to finish this paper, this work, this report I'm doing, but I can't finish it now unless I have a cup of coffee. I'll go and get another cup of coffee. And then you're distracted by something else. There's something in the fridge you want to eat, or you get talking and you don't finish your report. This just occurs. It's just natural. It's normal. And it doesn't matter if it does. But when you see that as one of the hindrances getting in the way of your objective, you are by the very knowing of that, you are employing that third from last, which would be, is that the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, the 6th of the Noble Eightfold Path, effort. You're employing that effort to just tap yourself gently back on track, back on the path. No effort, no straining kind of effort, just gentle effort to tap yourself back on the path to go in the right direction. Now, later in my meditation practice, this mantra changed. I continued, and still to this day, it will come up in the back of my mind, I should be meditating. I hear the man's voice in my head, I should be meditating, but not so often now. In the Thai Forest tradition, they use the mantra Bhutto, which is like Buddha, but spelt B-U-D-D-H-O. And the D is kind of pronounced toe on the sec, so Bhutto. The relevance of the particular word isn't so important. You could use any word. Mary, Jesus, ice cream, 2 syllables. Because it can be used in conjunction with the breath. Boot on the in breath, do on the out breath. It can be used in conjunction with walking, stepping right, stepping left, or it could be Bhutto, 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 ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. So I contracted this mantra of I should be meditating down to this 2-syllable. Firstly, because everybody was doing it, everybody was talking about it, that was the thing to be done. And I didn't really understand why. But once I started to use this practice of a mantra, Bhutto, in my life, it became an integral part of my world, my conscious hours. Because like when you're driving and your mind is going here and it's going there and it's doing this and it's doing that, and you may not have your full attention on what you should have your full attention on, this is because the mind has the ability to do that. But if you give your mind something fairly innocuous to do, to keep it busy, like giving a child a little book to read or a toy to play with, to keep it out of trouble, then it is less able to go elsewhere. So if you give the child a book to read, you can look at it out of the corner of your eye, and you know he's not crossing the road, he's not eating something he shouldn't be, poisonous, you know the child is safe. Like with your mind, if you say to yourself, and you get into this practice through your sitting meditation firstly, in the nursery, in the greenhouse, of this Bhutto mantra, or observation of the breath. The reason the mantra becomes sometimes more used than continuous observation of the breath is because the Bhutto mantra is something very tangible and easy, like I should be meditating, meant to me, I should be meditating. Bhutto means awakened one to me, and it's an epithet of the Buddha, the name. So it means something tangible. And whilst my mind or your mind is thinking Bhutto, 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 and it doesn't have to be in conjunction with anything else, that alone is giving it something to do, leaving it only space to be able to concentrate and think on what it should be concentrating and thinking on in your daily activity. So take driving, you should be concentrating on the road and where you're going, but you will be listening to the radio, you'll be thinking about what you're going to do when you get there. You'll probably be also thinking about what you did before you left, you'll be thinking about what you're having for dinner tonight. Now, we're never thinking about all of these things at the same time. We think we are, but we're jumping from one to the other, like this, and it appears that it's a flow. But as soon as you think Bhutto, 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 you are less able to jump from one thing to the other. You're giving yourself a point of reference to keep coming back to, back to, back to. And we call that home. Back home. And this was my first teacher's other mantra. We're coming home. You're coming home. You're coming back home. Home. Home is an evocative word of safety, protection, comfort, familiar environment, love, happiness, usually. Otherwise it's just a household. But home means something good. Like Bhutto means something good. But if you associate coming home with Bhutto, you've always got something good to come home to. Now, I'm not familiar with computers these days. I use only my phone for correspondence, emails or comments, and that's really as far as it goes. But it's probably the same now, but when I was using computers all day, or a lot of the time, there was a home button. And I think, yes, on phones we have a home button. And whatever you've done, however badly things had gone. For me, with the computers, however badly things have gone, that sounds drastic, but you know how it can go really wrong. You hit this home button, yes? This was my favorite button, home. I don't know, it was there. I think it was maybe even this, or you click on it. I don't know how it works. I can't remember. But think of this home button. I can visualize it on an iPhone. It has this nice button there, home button. And you might have to push it a few times, yes? But it brings you back to what you're familiar with, the screen as it should look. So whatever you've done, you hit that home button enough times, the screen becomes how it should look. And you can relax. How are you relaxing? Because you're able to settle. You've come home. So we think of this mantra, Bhutto, as home, the home button. So you've done a Google search meditation and you've got onto a very interesting line of subject matter about meditation, and below that something else, and below that something else. And the tendency is to not just click on the first one, but to just look at the next one and the next one, and before you know it, a little advert's come along, which is nothing to do with meditation, but it's so beautifully presented, you can't help but look at that and you're distracted. You might click on that and before you know it, you've gone down a whole rabbit hole structure of different, is it rabbit hole or wormhole? I don't know, it's lots of holes anyway. I think they're much the same, burrows, away from meditation entirely. And only by hitting that home button are you going to get back, figuratively speaking maybe. But this is the nature of our minds also, with our thoughts throughout the day. So what we're doing with this I should be meditating, or this homing device, button, through the mantra of Bhutto, which is easier than a whole sentence, then is you're giving yourself this home button. And this is like meditation. This is meditation all day, every day, as long as your home button is there. You are more able to keep your attention on what you're doing, and this is mindfulness. Mindfulness, which comes before meditation, the seventh of this Noble Eightfold Path, after effort, is often how they describe these two versions of meditation, vipassana and samadhi. Vipassana being mindfulness, seeing clearly. And that is what we're doing. And the way to do this is by having this home button to keep your screen looking as it should, with all of the icons or the words or the things in their familiar locations for you to click on and start again with a fresh opportunity from scratch, but seeing clearly. Vipassana just means seeing clearly. Samadhi is more bringing your mind into focus onto one meditation object. But like settling the mind to let the mind become calm, and letting the body settle to allow the body to relax, now I've lost track something. Bhutto, you see, home button. We practice this ability of samadhi to train the mind to be able to focus back on the meditation object when it starts to drift, like mine did just then. And by bringing it back to the meditation object, or this mantra of Bhutto, you're pushing the home button and you're seeing clearly. And this is done often through formal meditation, this development and practice of samadhi. And this in turn enables us to use and practice mindfulness throughout our day in any posture, sitting, standing, walking, or lying down. Now, in turn also, we develop mindfulness, this observational ability of all that's surrounding us, by keeping our screens clear, using this home button, this mantra, I should be meditating. So when I was saying I should be meditating, I was just looking at everything I was doing, getting all flustered, and then saying, right, remember what he said, I should be meditating. And what it meant to me was that I'm just letting things bother me and clutter up my mind, when that won't help. Just breathe in, stop for a couple of seconds, break the cycle, and you're back on track again, able to carry on. It's often about just breaking the cycle and getting back on track, pushing that home button, yes, clearing that screen. So we do this, and the two work in conjunction. One is not going to develop without the other. We need vipassana and we need samadhi. This is meditation. And this way we are practicing meditation all day and every day. So having developed this in the formal meditation situation, we continue, and often in our day things will happen, we'll get busy, we'll be distracted, and we'll be far away from the thoughts of meditation. But as you continue with regular meditation each and every day, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day if you can, sitting formally, the more you do this, the more easily able you are to bring yourself back to this mantra, or your meditation object, the breath. Ultimately, what you're trying to achieve is to be able to take this seedling from the greenhouse, from the seed tray, once it's got some good firm roots, with its soil around it, and plant it outside, in the environment that's hostile, with winds and rains and sunshine and no sunshine and creatures and animals and people. It will be strong enough to survive anything. And this is what we do with the nurturing of our samadhi, in order that we can practice vipassana outside of the nursery environment. The breath as a meditation object, I think I often imply there's a useful alternative in the way I speak, by saying, if that's your meditation object. I can honestly not think of anything as good as the breath as a meditation object, because it is always with you, ever present, wherever you are. And it is bringing your attention, your conscious awareness, back into the body. And this is what we must always do. Not over there, here, inside. It's bringing your conscious awareness within, so that anything you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching is clearly defined as outside, with your meditation object of the breath being inside, in terms of your focus, your samadhi. Your development of samadhi should be on one point of this breath. So that if you, for instance, take this point as being your nose, and I would suggest that the point of entry and the point of exit is also the only option on this one. Whilst we're in the nursery, whilst we're in the greenhouse, whilst we're growing this seedling. Like learning to ride a bicycle, we need stabilizers. Eventually they can be taken off and we can learn to ride without the stabilizers. Eventually the seedling can be planted in the jungle even, a wild forest. It won't need the protection of a glass greenhouse. But whilst we're nurturing this very fragile, and also always remembering this should be enjoyable without strain, without trying, without too much wrong effort. It should be right effort. The Noble Eightfold Path is right view, right intention, right speech, like that. Right action, right livelihood, and right effort, implying there's a wrong effort. It's not so much wrong, it's just that it's not right. And right effort is not straining, it's being wise to direct and gently push yourself back on this path. So we train and we practice this. And for many millennia, thousands of years, this has worked. And it's been handed down verbally. Okay, it's in the sutras also, but mostly this is usually spoken, the spoken word. We may find the breath perhaps a little, some people may find the breath perhaps a little bit vague. So let me tell you how I was able to see this through that first teacher. There are three very significant things I remember from how he taught. Apart from the fact that he taught meditation so very simply. If it hadn't have been simple, I wouldn't have maintained interest, because I prefer to just get on and do things than learn about them. So he taught very simply in order that you could get on and do things, practice the meditation as quickly as possible. That's the one thing, the main thing I remember. But the three identifiable points were I should be meditating, coming home, and then next how to focus that attention without concentrating, without straining the face up and squinting the eyes and tensing the muscles. How do you think of this breath in a single point? Well, some people say just think of the tip of the nose or the top of the lip. I can't really feel so much in those areas as being at a single point, and this is possibly required a little bit of imagination there. But the way he described this, which was very valuable to me, was if you think of an incense stick, or just said a twig, a stick that's been in the fire, please mosquito, or whatever you are. If you think of this mosquito, I'm not dancing, I'm waving the mosquito gently away. If you think of this stick that's been in the fire and the flame's gone out and it's just an ember burning at the end of the stick, and it just goes to a white ash like this. If you gently blow on the stick, it brightens like a bright red glow, and then you stop breathing and you stop blowing and it goes down to white ash again. Gently blow. You could just do this with a matchstick that's gone out, or any burning stick. And I have a very visual image of this burning stick to this day. Blow on it and it brightens, and then you stop blowing and it unbrightens. Now similarly with your breath, you're breathing out, you're breathing in. If you think of this as just brightening that point of the ember, the burning ember, at the tip of your nose there. It's not the tip of your nose burning, but if you can't feel the breath directly at the tip of your nose, just imagine the breath on an ember, brightening and then going dull, brightening and then going dull, in conjunction with the breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And this way you will be able to bring your attention, your awareness, not only to the breath, but a very singular point of the breath. On exhalation, stopping and inhalation, stopping and exhalation. This is what we do when we're sitting in meditation, to bring our focus to something. This is our meditation object. And our minds will wander. These 5 hindrances will distract us, and we will very soon be on that Google path to rabbit hole, wormhole confusion. When we realize our minds have wandered, we've been thinking, our thoughts have gone from one to another to another, we only have to push the home button, only probably once, and your screen will clear again to the recognizable icons, being this glowing ember at the tip of your nose, the breath, and the mantra Bhutto. This is enough. Throughout your day, however busy you are, whatever you're doing, you can just stop for a moment and say Bhutto and observe the breath, breathing in, breathing out. Even if it's just for a few seconds, it will allow your mind to settle and calm. It will allow your body to settle and calm. And this is meditating all day. And this can be done every day. And it's just that. Keep meditating each and every day, all day, every day. And you will forget. You will go through many hours or even days of not doing this. But then you will recall that this made you feel content, which led to happiness. This made you feel less flustered, less confused. This helped you achieve more. And you will sit at home again and you will practice and bring yourself gently back onto that path. And if you remember that a Noble Eightfold Path in its entirety can be condensed to these simple 3 things of sila, this moral virtue, samadhi, meditation, and panya, wisdom. And wisdom is understanding this. Understanding that meditation and sila are what help us as human beings not only live with all beings happily and more contentedly, but live with ourselves happily and more contentedly, with clear minds, seeing clearly what's happening, and with relaxed bodies, less susceptible to illness, less susceptible to strain. Muscular strain comes about through a lack of relaxation. This is why you perform warming up exercises, to artificially help to soften and relax and untense the muscles. Now, the mind alone can do this. If you allow the mind to settle, the body will settle also. And if the body settles, it will be allowed to relax, as your mind will be allowed to become calm. So I think I've said enough about this for today. And there's only so much of my little friend, the mosquito, going into my eye that I can take. But just one last thing. Whatever we're doing, we need to have some kind of progress report. But you must remember, this cannot be seen as something that develops in clearly visible steps, day by day. But in hindsight, over a few days, over a passage of time, looking back, you will see a very obvious difference. Not only in how you feel about your life, but how life treats you. Not just from your perception, how things go more smoothly. But it is a gradual process. So if you say, I've kept up this practice of Sila, Samadhi and Panya for a whole day now and nothing has changed, nothing might not have changed. A little bit maybe, in one day. But if you keep up that practice for a week, a month, 3 months, and then look back, how did I react to this situation today, and compare it to how you would react to the same situation 3 months ago. There will be an actual identifiable difference. 6 months, 1 year, even more so. From 1 year, 3 years, even more so. It goes like that. You are saturating, you're gradually changing your mind and everything about the way you live. It isn't instant. It's not like going out into the rain and you're suddenly wet, immersed in water. It's like going out into the mist, where you sort of dampen and slowly get wetter and wetter and wetter. A gradual increase. Like a photograph of yourself yesterday is going to look the same, but when you look at that photograph in 5 years' time, there will be a marked difference. If you look at a photograph of yourself 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, there is a marked difference. This is how you must understand it. And if you are enjoying it, you will continue to enjoy it and want to enjoy it more. If you to some extent, we are, with meditation, going against what we feel we want to do, but only through the conditioning we've given ourselves throughout our lives so far. By reconditioning our perspective, our attitude towards meditation, it very quickly falls into place as being the natural way. Because after all, you're coming back home. You're resetting. Now, we're not performing a whole factory reset. That would be extreme. Now, there are some practices that do that, but this can be quite dangerous. But by having that ability to just come home and watch the breath, Bhutto breath, is enough for clarity and peace of mind. So I will end this talk on meditation all day and every day there. I hope you find it's useful. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.